What's up, everybody? I know you missed us. We missed you guys. We missed the NFL, and it's finally back. Week 1, Thursday Night Football preview. We got the Chiefs and Ravens. We honestly could not have asked for a better game to go over. I'm excited. I know JJ's excited. I hope you guys are excited. We got research, analysis to get into, and then we're going to summarize it all in the end with a parlay of our favorite picks. So make sure you watch until the end.
Those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side.
What is up, everybody? I'm Dr.Profit. I'm with my man Jay, Sleeper Stats, aka JJ, and we got a great game ahead of us. So I'm going to start things off talking about things that have changed in the offseason because, again, it's week 1. A lot of players and coaches have changed, and then we're going to get into some of the details. So the first thing that I want to mention is the Ravens have a new defensive coordinator. Not only is he new, he doesn't have any prior coordinator experience. He came up the ranks as he retired as a player with the Ravens, joined the coaching staff, and in 7 years has now gotten to be the defensive coordinator. Obviously, that's super fast. He's super smart. Everybody talks super highly of him. The players love him. But one of the biggest things that he has emphasized is organized chaos. So, JJ, I'll let you take this part over because you were the one who found this, but it kind of goes over like what we saw in the preseason that exemplified that.
Yeah, so basically, from my understanding, a lot of the preseason schemes and like how they sort of like to call plays usually sticks and goes into regular season. So right here from the coach A, make sure you follow him because this is all his work.
100%.
This is all his data, field vision. So what we have here, we have the Ravens towards the bottom right here, like the third team down, as you can see. Well, not 13, but the camera's in the way. Well, probably 13 from the camera. They're about average to slightly below average in blitz percentage. But what we like to see here is that organized chaos, and that looks to be that simulated pressure percentage, which is 25%, which obviously red means it's towards the higher side. And I think that's where that organized chaos is going to come from. So if you don't know what simulated pressure is, it's usually like when a linebacker comes down and is obviously like showing that blitz. And they may blitz, they may not blitz, but it has to have the offensive line call them out, maybe have some sort of adjustment to have an extra blocker ready for them. What do you think about all that?
I mean, it makes sense, and that's kind of what you have to do against the Chiefs. Obviously, Mahomes is a genius. He can break any play that you want, so you want to keep him on his toes, thinking about what the defense is doing rather than just letting him get comfortable. And we've seen in years past, mainly like 2021 and before in their previous matchups, where the Ravens have wanted to blitz him. They didn't make it too difficult, and they were able to throw 30, 40-yard bombs down the field like it was nothing. So it's going to take something a little bit more schemed out and smarter to, if you do want to send pressure, and I think that's what we're going to see. I agree with you. Yeah. But the other big thing that I wanted to mention this offseason is the Chiefs traded away L'Jarius Sneed, who, if anybody paid attention to any of our shows last year, you know L'Jarius Sneed was a fucking terror. You didn't want to line up against L'Jarius Sneed. He locked down whoever your best wide receiver was. So, JJ, I know that was something that you hammered more than anybody last year. So I think that's going to have a big impact there.
Yeah, and it just seems like he's gone, but now you got McDuffie in that nickel slot, which he's probably going to follow around Zay Flowers. He may not have like a full follow, but that press coverage is going to make it tough on him as far as Zay Flowers, especially because he's a smaller receiver. But he has been doing pretty well this season, or last season, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see how he comes out the gates.
Oh, yeah. And last season, and they played each other in the playoffs, obviously, and 41 pass attempts, they ran man coverage 20 on 22 of those 41 attempts. Over 50% is unheard of. That would rank first in the NFL in any season you look at if you extrapolated that to the whole season. So the Chiefs are probably going to want to run man coverage, and if he's guarding Zay like we're talking about and he's going to cause problems, the Ravens are going to have to look elsewhere, and that's something that we're going to touch on later on. But I think those are the main things that I wanted to touch on as far as offseason changes. JJ, am I forgetting anything?
I think that's it.
Love it. So we'll start talking about the run schemes on both sides. Then we know both sides love to run a variation of man gap concepts. Ravens are more power, and especially with Derrick Henry, we're going to see that emphasized more. And obviously options with Lamar Jackson. And then Chiefs are more traditional man gap concepts. So JJ, what do you have there?
I think what we've been hearing a lot from the Ravens offense during training camp is they want to run more 12 personnel, which should favor these power runs that they want. They want Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews both on the field. We'll see how much that actually occurs this season. So week 1 is going to be a good test to see what we actually can do with betting on these guys. It's going to be very interesting, but the run should be favored for these guys with 12 personnel. That's an extra blocker in there.
Oh, yeah. And as far as the other side of the ball, really the only thing to mention that stands out is Roquan Smith did say this. Let me share my screen real quick, where the weird thing to say against the Chiefs, but the Ravens want to focus on stopping the run. And in a way, it makes sense. Mahomes is going to pass the ball 40 times and probably drive the ball down the field either way. So at least make it to where you don't have to worry about that and the run. So it seems like they want to stop the run. And he says make them one-dimensional. We'll see if that actually works. But as from a betting perspective, if they do focus on that, then maybe that means less rush attempts or less successful rush attempts. It'll be interesting to see how all that works out.
And it did work pretty well last season or during that championship game. Isaiah Pacheco had 24 carries, but only 68 yards, which is 2.8 yards per carry. And they lost a 7-point game. So it really just came down to the Baltimore Ravens offense. And if they can make some adjustments there, a similar game plan can work.
100%. I think that was everything that was worth covering on the run side. I think where this game is going to get really important and interesting is the pass game. The pass game for any Chiefs game is obviously big on their end. But for the Ravens, I think where it gets important is Odell Beckham Jr. is gone, which means they're either going to have way more 2 tight end sets with Isaiah Likely coming in, Rashad Bateman as their second wide receiver, and or Nelson Aguilar getting mixed in a lot more. Obviously, that doesn't sound super sexy, but this is the Baltimore Ravens we're talking about. They've never had the sexiest offense, but it wins games. So the big thing that I want to note there is I mentioned earlier that Chiefs ran man coverage on more than 50% of snaps last season. Where that becomes a very big thing is Rashad Bateman. While he struggled a lot against zone coverage, he was 75th percentile in winning his routes against man coverage. The Chiefs also run a lot of press coverage. He was 85th percentile against press coverage. So if he's getting more snaps and he's had reportedly a great offseason, I think this could be a huge maybe not a huge Rashad Bateman game, but I think he's going to put people on that people might have forgotten about him or they think he's a bum. I think we're going to learn a little bit about him today. Outside of that, JJ, I know you had some stats that you mentioned in terms of Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers that you wanted to go over.
Yeah, so I was looking at a lot of weeks 2 through 11 because that's when Andrews was healthy. I mean, obviously that week 11 game he did get hurt, so you got like half a game out of him. But it's the best sample size we're gonna get. So the Chiefs, they like to run a lot of cover 2. And from what we've seen, they ran a lot of man in that championship game. But cover 2 was their highest. That was a playoff game. So maybe they'll go back to running their regular coverages in regular season. So cover 2, Andrews had a 33% targets per route run between weeks 2 and 11. And the 3 highest coverages they had was cover 1, 2, and 4. That was what they mainly ran. That's probably like over 60% of their plays on defense or so. And when you look at that sample size, Andrews had a 22% targets per route run and Flowers had a 15% target per route run. The funny thing with that one is the highest on the team in targets per route run during that time was OBJ at 30%, but he's no longer there. So share is going to go somewhere else. I think looking at cover 2 and the cover 4 and all that, they're going to try and keep everything underneath. I don't know if the Chiefs have someone that can actually defend Mark Andrews because last year, this was the lowest ADOT Mark Andrews has ever had. So I think he's going to take care of a lot of that underneath the work, and they want Flowers to have the deep to intermediate routes.
I definitely agree. I think I already mentioned Bateman. I think as far as the zone schemes, it's going to be kind of like what you're saying. Zay's going to have to handle a lot of the intermediate stuff, and Andrew's handling a lot of the short stuff. It'll be interesting to see which one wins. Obviously, Zay had 115 yards last game. 4 of his 5 catches were against zone, so obviously that was a big deal. I know he had a big play towards the end of the game, but even then, you don't magically walk into 115 yards. So I would personally stay away from those guys just because we mentioned the 2 tight end sets. We don't yet know, one, whether it's true or if it's all just fluff from preseason reports, and 2, if it is true, what kind of routes are each of them running? If they're running a play action, which one stays in the block, which one breaks into a route? We can assume and guess likely breaks in the route, but the reality is we don't know until we see it. So I'm not saying either of them is a bad play if you want to play them, but personally, there's too much guessing going on for me. As far as Zay, it's going to come down to how often the Chiefs break into a zone or not. So we'll see. But I think from the Ravens side, Bateman is the best value play, and there are spots that the other guys can succeed. It's just about trying to figure out what the Chiefs are going to do.
Yeah.
Enough about the Ravens. Now we got the Chiefs. And this gets really, really interesting because Kelsey looked like he fell off during the regular season last year. Playoff came, and he looked like he was a god again. Rashee Rice broke out late in the season. Now they've drafted Xavier Worthy. They let go of Valdez-Scantling and Kadarius Toney. Thank God they have real receivers on the outside. But Worthy's still a rookie. They lost Jake McKinnon for those third down plays. They brought in Samaje Perine. So what's your read on how all that's going to come down?
Samaje is going to get all the passing down work, I believe. I mean, he's always been great at that throughout his entire career. And it's not a knock on Pacheco. I think Pacheco will get the early down work, but he will get a couple of pass plays here and there. I think his line was set at 2.5 and for receptions and 14.5 yards receiving. I think that is fair considering both teams wanted to keep each other like throwing underneath throws and all that. Nothing was deep. I think probably like 80% of the throws for each team was 10 yards or less. So I'm expecting that to be the same right here.
I mean, Baltimore runs a lot of cover one man, which traditionally isn't great for running back receiving. Mm-hmm. So with Samaje Perine coming in and taking that into account, it could be kind of weird for Pacheco on the receiving side.
Yeah.
With them bringing in a little more blitz and man coverage, I think that could help Rashee Rice a lot. Kyle Hamilton obviously isn't going to be able to stop Travis Kelce. Nobody has ever been able to stop Travis Kelce. But having that as enough of a disruptor, and Xavier Worthy being a rookie, Xavier Worthy's either going for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns or 1 reception for 11 yards. Like, I really don't see an in-between for him in this scenario. So I think Rashee Rice is going to be a very important factor in whether the Chiefs are able to drive the ball down the field or not.
Yeah, and I believe he has some data on that.
Yes. So last season, I think against man coverage, he had 30% targets per out run, which was higher than anybody on the team by far. And I want to say 2.8 yards per out run. So if we're expecting him to be on the field for every route, which I do expect him to, we're looking at 40 routes, 2.8 yards per out run. They're not going to run man coverage every play, but if they did, we're looking at 90, 100 yards. Obviously looking like a very good game for him. The reception should be there. He doesn't run any crazy deep routes and corner routes. It's all pretty straightforward stuff for him. It's just a matter of the Chiefs' offense is so well schemed out that if he's running a 10-yard route, odds are he's open 10 yards down the field. So we'll see how it all plays out. But, yeah, I think Rice is the man to go to if you're attacking Chiefs props on the passing end. That's all I got.
I'm ready for a same game parlay.
Let's do it. Here we are. FanDuel had a 50% profit boost for same game parlays in this game. I went Baltimore +3 because I think this team is really well put together. Outside of putting getting rid of Patrick Queen. I really like how it's built out, and I'll try and find what the stat was, but there is a stat where I think Lamar's 12-2 against the spread when he's an underdog. So I really like that. It's hard to bet against Mahomes at home, but I got to trust my gut here.
Yeah, it all depends on the offense. I think the defense will show up. It's just a matter of can Derrick Henry make an impact running in the running game, because in that championship game, it was really just Lamar Jackson just running. And they should have ran him more in that championship game, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yep. And then primetime unders, if you guys don't know from last season and last 10 years, primetime games go under at like 65% rate, something ridiculous.
It was something ridiculous.
So just blindly taking unders, you'd be very profitable. I know the Ravens' red zone defense was elite last season. Even if it takes a dip, it'll still be top 5 this season. And it just makes too much sense.
Yeah.
Talked about Rashad Bateman, 30.5 receiving yards. I'm honestly going to sprinkle a little bit of 50+ receiving yards in there. This matchup is tailor-made for him with the press.
Especially if they run a lot of man too.
Exactly.
Because I think full season last year, he was second highest. It was OBJ as the highest as far as targets per route run. He was at 26%, I believe. And yeah, he should be the main guy here, especially as an X receiver. He's finally healthy. So hopefully he stays healthy throughout this game.
100%. And then Rashee Rice, I talked about. I think this game for the Chiefs offense and driving down the field, I think it's going to be pretty pivotal for him. We know the Ravens are hard knock. They want to stop the run defense. They've said they want to stop the run against this team. Kelsey's going to be dealing with Hamilton. Worthy's a rookie. This coverage schemes make a lot of sense to cater towards Rashee Rice. I think 5.5 receptions is more than doable. JJ,
and then we have we got Justice Hill here, and it's similar to Rashee Rice. They're going to keep everything underneath. Justice Hill should be the main receiving back. I believe they want to keep Derrick Henry healthy, especially like trying to make a playoff push. So he's going to get the early down work. And then Justice Hill was the main guy after who went down last season? Explosive runner.
Why am I blanking on the name? I know exactly who you're talking about.
But yeah, he took over as the main receiving back there once he went down. Mitchell Keaton.
Yep.
Or Keaton Mitchell. Yeah.
Keaton Mitchell. That's who it is.
Yeah. So when he went down, Justice Hill took over as a receiving back. And in that championship game, I believe he had 4 receptions on 7 targets for 34 yards. And he's had a lot of 25 or like 20 or 25 plus receiving yard games after Mitchell went down. So I think this has got to be the play here, especially if they're keeping everything underneath.
I'm disappointed you didn't even mention the fact that the Chiefs run cover 2.
Well, that's part of my underneath.
for those who, again, were not watching last season, I'm pretty sure I made a full YouTube video explaining the differences between each coverage and what kind of positions are mainly targeted against each coverage. When a team runs cover 2, the target rate for the running back goes up like you'd never expect it. So anytime you have a team that runs a lot of cover 2, which the Chiefs do, the Bills did at some parts last season, the Patriots did at some parts last season, anytime you see a team run a bunch of cover 2, you can go ahead and blindly take the opposing running back over receiving yards. I don't care what the hit rate is. I don't care if they have a passing or a running quarterback. Just go ahead and do it. I promise you, it will be one of the most profitable strategies you have all season. So That is $100 to win $3,000 with the profit boost. Dude, imagine if we hit the first parlay of the season for $3,000. That'd be electric.
Amazing.
So, first game of the season, first video of the season. We're going to have plenty more like this. We have a whole schedule for the season. I hope you guys tune into all of it. But, JJ, appreciate you as always, man. Good luck to everybody tailing, and we will see you guys on the next video.